created the universe. The earth was formless and desolate. The raging ocean that covered everything was engulfed in total darkness, and the Spirit of God was moving over the water. So God started the work of creation on the earth. At the end of the sixth day of creation, God saw that everything He had made was very beautiful. This, of course, included His human being. But over time, human beings started recording certain imperfections like disabilities in their generations. What therefore happened to the very beautiful thing God created in the beginning that brought about disability? The closest answer is man's sin. But the Lord Jesus, while responding to a query from His disciples regarding a certain man who was born blind, said, "It was not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him." We still have the disabled ones among us today, but we must know that there is a reason why God allowed them to be the way they are. Disability is a severe physical or mental illness that restricts the way a person lives his or her life. The main document of the World Annual Disability Report reveals that disability affects hundreds of millions of families in developing countries. It says also that currently around 10% of the total world's population, or roughly 650 million people, live with a disability. It is a common knowledge that in Africa today, disabled persons are being stigmatized and locked up instead of showing them love and turning their disabilities to abilities. However, the Servants of Charity, a religious congregation of priests and brothers in the Catholic Church, have for over a century, precisely 109 years, been giving care to this set of individuals. The mandate of the religious organization is to carry on the mission of the founder, Father Gwanella, of serving the needs of special people and the poor throughout the world. On March 24, 1908, Father Gwanella and the first confreres professed publicly their vows. During most of Father Gwanella's lifetime, Italy was in a state of political and social unrest. The Industrial Revolution and the unification of Italy resulted in many abandoned and poor people, mostly elderly, sick, and those with disabilities who are left to care for themselves. Father Gwanella took these people in, established homes for them, and founded two religious congregations, the Daughters of St. Mary of Providence and the Servants of Charity, to care for them. Today, the Servants of Charity carry on the mission of charity in 25 countries on 5 continents. As always, they seek to care for those in need, bringing hope, love, and dignity to all. The first country the servants of charity landed in African continent was Nigeria in 1992. That was 25 years ago, with a formal approval from the late provincial Don Mauricio, and their first point of call was Owerri, Imo State, Nnebuku Town in Oguta local government, southeast Nigeria, under Owerri Diocese. The then Bishop of Owerri Diocese, late Bishop Mark Unegbu, invited them. Reverend Father Kelechi Maduforo was actively involved at the beginning, and he was the first local superior when the House of Providence Ibadan became a fully fledged religious community. He facilitated the design and construction of the House of Providence. He sought the acquisition of land for the farm center. The Superior General Don Nino Minetti and Provincial Don Alfonso Cripple gave approval for the congregation to come to Ibadan. But there are reasons for the move to Ibadan.
We started off in Nnebuku. And Nnebuku had the apostolate for persons with disabilities. And as the apostolate was growing, candidates who wanted to join the congregation was growing equally. So at a time in Nnebuku, we had the apostolate, the formation house, and the religious community. And the formation house was made up of three fundamental steps: the aspirants, the postulants, and the novices. Because when we were the third batch in the congregation, when we had our philosophical studies, the house was not yet completed. So we're leaving the seat of wisdom, coming back to the community to follow up the apostolate with the little houses that were completed then. So when the congregation, after our experience in Seat of Wisdom, being a diocesan seminary, the congregation felt it was better that their candidates study in a religious environment. So they made an option for the Claretian Seminary, where our students were sent to do their philosophical studies. But having 4 steps of formation in the same house became somehow cumbersome for the community, the religious community that was there in Ibadan and that was there in Owerri. So the idea came that it could be good to distinguish these steps of formation with different locations. That's how the idea started coming. And there were options. The options were to go to Jos, for instance. There were options to go to Lagos. There were options to go to Abuja. But the congregation made the option to go to Ibadan because Ibadan was considered, and is still considered, the Rome of the Nigerian church. Principally because you find a good number of religious congregations that have their formation house and other activities in Ibadan. The second thing that somehow engineered or gingered the congregation to make this option was also the fact that Ibadan, one of the biggest capital states of Nigeria, was also very close to Lagos. The congregation establishing itself in Ibadan would have given opportunity for the congregation to deal with visitors who come in from Lagos, because then, I believe also now, the distance is about 120 kilometers. So in 2 hours, one could easily go to Lagos, come down to Ibadan and do whatever he wants. The third thing I know that influenced our presence in Ibadan was also the fact that one of our big benefactors then, and I think he was also the construction, he was responsible for the construction company that managed the constructions there in Nigeria. Sandro Teroji was living in Ibadan, and his presence facilitated our insertion into the social environment of Ibadan and also the church environment, because Sandro Teroji with his company was handling most of the constructions of the religious community. So he knew the bishop, priests, and a lot of people that could help our settling down to Ibadan. I think these were the three fundamental factors that led the congregation to make the choice to Ibadan.
The decision to move to Ibadan coincided with the plans of Archbishop Felix Alaba Job, the then Archbishop of Ibadan, to bring them in.
At that time, it was in an archdiocese. And you could see that one has to plan ahead. What was the charism of this group? In looking around, I had only female group for health. I had a few male and female for education. And so I picked on Dongwanela, number one, for health, the care of the aged. And also think of yourself, one day you'll be old. The care of the aged, the care of the handicapped. I had tried to start an institute for the deaf and dumb. It didn't work out. The handicapped, mentally and physically handicapped, I saw that the Dongwanela also took care of them, educated them, and so I looked out for them. Where could I get them? So that they will form part of the equipe for the archdiocese. And since I met during the synod so many people, so many bishops, I knew that the Dongwanelas were also looking for vocations in Africa. I offered that they will come to Ibadan. For the aged, for the handicapped, mentally and physically handicapped, for their education. And where should they go to? We planned in Ibadan at that time, where each new group should go to. If you look around, you will see that we have so many. But we're looking for service to the people. Real service. It's not just populating the diocese with religious, but those who will be arms of the church in rendering care, love, and service to the people. I had acquired land for my chancery, the bishop's house in Yemetu. Then I looked out. If they are coming, where should I put them? Look at their charisma. UCH there. They can send their handicap to UCH for quick treatment. They as we have their members, they can be chaplains in that place. And since our parish is the one taking care of that, let them also be there so that they can take charge of that whole.
And yes, the Archbishop of Ibadan, Archbishop Job, offered his site with a fixed mindset of service first, where we have the Providence House, Yemetu, Ibadan, today.
I was convinced when they came, I offered my own site. And some said, in fact, some bishops said, if you don't build your own church, we'll not visit you again. We'll not. I said, look, first, service. What do I need? Only one bed I can sleep. And for your information, it's the same bed I've been sleeping on, that I'm still sleeping on, that I brought here. Oh yes. Service to the people. So that's why I brought the Dogwadelas. It is not to populate the diocese with religious male and female. It is to give the service of Christ to the people around. And if you look around, this is how we allotted ourselves, the religious, the clergy, so that we can serve the people better.
Hence, there are 4 locations of the Servants of Charity in Nigeria, made up of 2 communities and 2 residencies. Few years after the Servants of Charity moved to Ibadan, Father Basil Chidebere Egbujo, the current local superior, House of Providence Ibadan, joined as a student. He witnessed the evolution of the community.
Begin to see pictures of the past, because I would say that although we are not the very first set, but I was also part of the history, especially the beginning of this congregation here as a student. When we arrived in Ibadan, we had 2 or 3 sets that were before us. When they started, first of all, we are living in the seminary of SS Peter and Paul. From that seminary of SS Peter and Paul, a house was rented somewhere in Bodija, and the students moved in to start living there, and from there they were attending lectures in the seminary, and we are following other formative programs in the house. When we came, we were among the first sets to live in that house, and subsequent groups also passed through the same house receiving their formation. Before in 2005, we left that house, and the group of students who were still in formation then here in Ibadan came to Yemetu, the present house where we are now, and where they started living, doing their formation.